January 2020, average hourly earnings on private non-farm payrolls, $28.44. February 2026, same metric, same source, $37.32. That is a 31% raise. On paper, the American worker got a 31% raise in 6 years. Cumulative inflation over that same window, 27.6%. So you got a 31% raise, and prices went up 28%, and you are supposed to feel fine. You do not feel fine. The math says you should have 3 extra points of breathing room. Your grocery bill says otherwise, your rent says otherwise. The number on the screen at the self-checkout says otherwise. And the reason is buried in a data set that almost nobody outside the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually reads. $1 in January 2020 buys 78 cents of goods today. 22 cents gone. Not 24, not 28. The exact number depends on which month you measure, which basket you use, and whether you eat eggs. Because eggs went from $1.46 a carton in 2020 to $3.59 today. That is not 28% inflation. That is 146%. Transportation costs since 2020, up 35.9%. Housing, up 30.2%. Food and beverages, up 28.7%. The 28% number is an average. But you do not live in the average. You live in a specific city, drive a specific car, eat specific food, and the categories that eat your paycheck the fastest are the ones that outran the average. That is the surface. Peel it back. Peel it. The headline number, the one that politicians use and pundits cite, is average hourly earnings adjusted for CPI. And from March 2025 to March 2026, that number went up 0.3%. Not 3%, 0.31%. That is your real raise for the year, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. 12 months of work, the purchasing power you gained would not cover a single tank of gas. But even that number is a lie. And the word lie is precise. Because an average is only honest when the distribution underneath it is even. And this distribution is not even, it is fractured. The Cleveland Federal Reserve published a report in February 2026. From the first quarter of 2020 through the third quarter of 2025, workers at the 10th percentile, the lowest earners, saw real wages grow 9.7%. Workers at the 90th percentile saw 4.5%. Those bottom-rung workers gained minimum wage increases. Tight labor markets, signing bonuses at warehouses and fast food chains. They gained. The top earners gained too: asset appreciation, stock options, equity in a home that went up 40%. The middle did not gain. The numbers are public. The math is verifiable. What you do with it is yours. But the data from that same Cleveland Fed report tells a story that is hard to walk past. In dollar terms, the worker at the 90th percentile gained $3.09 per hour in real wages since the first quarter of 2020. The worker at the 10th percentile gained $1.34. The worker at the 50th percentile, the dead center of the American workforce, gained $1.75. That is $14 more over an 8-hour shift, not per hour, per shift. And here is where the ceiling starts to leak. Your paycheck went up, on paper, but the ceiling, the purchasing power above you, is dripping. Every month, a little more falls through. You do not see the crack, you see the puddle. The puddle is your grocery receipt. The puddle is your car insurance premium. The puddle is the rent increase that showed up in March with a form letter and no explanation. A person in Indianapolis, 43 years old, project coordinator, $95,000 a year. They got promoted 2 years ago. Title bump, salary went from 82 to 95. a 15.8% raise in nominal terms. Over those same 2 years, CPI in the Midwest climbed roughly 6%, so the real raise was around 9%. Sounds decent. Then you look at what actually changed. Rent went up 11%, car insurance went up 19%, groceries for a family of 4, now hitting roughly $1,000 a month. According to the USDA Thrifty Food Plan, up from about $730 in 2017. The $13,000 raise is real. The $13,000 raise is also already spoken for. Every dollar of it, absorbed by categories that do not feel like luxuries, because they are not luxuries. This person did not make a mistake, they got promoted. They did the thing you are supposed to do. And the result is a wider title on a business card. And the same tightness in the chest at the end of the month. That is not one person's story. That is the math for anyone in that income bracket, that career stage, that zip code. 8 months of inflation, no ground gained. Now peel the next layer. Because it gets worse. CPI hit 3.3% year-over-year in March 2026. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, up from 2.4% in February. That is the largest single-month jump in the annual rate in nearly 2 years. A 0.9% month-over-month increase. Seasonally adjusted. The driver is not a mystery. A Federal Reserve study published the 8th of April estimated that tariffs implemented through November 2025 have raised core goods PCE prices by 3.1% through February 2026. That 3.1% is not spread evenly across the economy. It lands on goods, physical things, clothes, electronics, cars, furniture. The things you buy with the raise you thought you got. The Yale Budget Lab puts it in household terms. The current tariff regime, with the effective tariff rate sitting at 11.8%, the highest since the early 1940s, according to their April 2026 analysis, costs the average household between $760 and $940 per year if the Section 122 tariffs expire on schedule. If they get extended, that number jumps to between $1,200 and $1,500. And here is the part that should make you sit up straighter. That cost is regressive. The bottom income decile loses 1.1% of post-tax income to tariff-driven price increases. The top decile loses 0.4%. Same policy, 3 times the burden. The ceiling leaks faster when the roof is thinner. You opened your phone, you checked your bank balance, you closed the app. That is the entire American middle class in 3 gestures. Now, the deepest layer. Median weekly earnings for full-time workers in the first quarter of 2020. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, $957. First quarter of 2026, $1,235. That is a 29% nominal increase. Sounds strong. Adjust for cumulative CPI of 27.6%. The real gain is roughly 1.1% over 6 years, 1.1%. I ran this calculation 3 times because I did not believe the output. The output was correct. 6 years of labor market recovery, 6 years of record low unemployment, 6 years of headlines about a hot economy, and the median full-time worker gained 1.1%. In actual purchasing power, that is not a rounding error, that is a rounding error's shadow. Real median household income tells the same story from a different angle. According to the Census Bureau, via Fred, 2020 median real household income was $81,580. In 2024, $83,730. A 2.6% gain in 4 years, inflation, adjusted. The Census Bureau's own language for the 2024 update was clinical, not statistically different from the prior year. 2 years in a row of flatness, and the agency that tracks it could not find a pulse. The middle class is not falling. Falling implies speed. The middle class is settling, like a house on soft ground. Slowly, unevenly, one room at a time. The kitchen floor slopes 2 degrees and nobody notices until the marble rolls. Who benefits from this settling? Start with a paycheck, $95,000. The employer's share of FICA takes its cut before you see anything. Then federal income tax, then state, then the health insurance premium that went up again, then the 401k contribution that looks generous until you realize the real return. On a 60-40 portfolio over the last 6 years, after fees and after inflation, is roughly 4 to 5% annualized. Not the 7% the retirement calculator promised you in 2019. 4 to 5. The gap between what the brochure said and what the math delivered is the servicer's margin, the fund manager's margin, the platform fee. Every intermediary between your gross income and your net purchasing power is clipping a percentage of a number that is already losing to inflation. The system does not need your money to shrink. It just needs to stand between you and the exit, collecting tolls. Now project forward. If CPI averages 3% annually for the next 5 years, and that is not a prediction, that is a scenario based on the current trajectory with tariffs still in effect. A dollar today becomes roughly 86 cents in 2031. Start with $95,000. In 2031, that same salary buys what $81,700 buys today. $13,300 of purchasing power, gone. Not spent, not stolen in the way that makes headlines. Just quietly evaporated through a crack in the ceiling you cannot see. Now layer in the asymmetry. If wages grow at the same pace they have since 2020, roughly 4% nominal per year, and inflation holds at 3%, the real wage gain is 1% annually. 1%. Over 5 years, that compounds to about 5%. 5% more purchasing power in 2031 than today. For the median worker, that is roughly $60 more per week in today's terms. $60. That is one grocery run, one tank of gas in Phoenix, where cumulative inflation since 2020 already hit 27.4%. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, in Tampa, it is worse, 31.5%. Your geography is not neutral, it is a multiplier. This is not an accident, and it is not a conspiracy, it is arithmetic. The system is not designed to make you poor. It is designed to make your progress invisible. You earn more, you buy less. The spread between those two facts is where institutions collect revenue. Mortgage servicers, insurance companies, fund platforms, grocery chains that absorbed wholesale deflation in 2024 and did not pass it through. The margins live in the gap between your nominal raise and your real purchasing power. And that gap right now is 6 years wide and still growing. The final number. Take the median full-time worker, 52 weeks, 6 years. That is 312 weeks of labor from January 2020 to today. Nominal earnings across those 6 years. Approximately $345,000 cumulative, based on BLS median weekly earnings data. Real earnings in 2020 across those same 6 years. Approximately $318,000, the difference. $27,000, gone. Not into savings, not into debt repayment, into the ceiling. $27,000 of purchasing power, earned and evaporated across 312 paychecks. $87 per paycheck. You did not miss it, because it was never loud enough to notice. It left the way water leaves a slow leak. By the time you see the stain, the damage is structural. You are not behind because you spent too much. You are not behind because you chose the wrong career. You are behind because the ceiling has been leaking for 6 years, and the only people who are dry are the ones who own the building. Median real wage gain 2020 to 2026, 1.1%. Cumulative inflation 2020 to 2026, 27.6%. 6 years, 1%. The ceiling is still leaking. The number does not negotiate.